This is the first time you're joining my live stream, welcome to my living room. I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of yourself that you came here to be. You do you, you be you. All right. So we have just shifted calendars, let's say. I don't feel like it is the beginning of the new year. I feel it is more like this is the period to go within, to review, reflect, especially with Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde. It's like, slow down. Don't start charging ahead. Because this is that time of year when things are actually dead. Things are hibernating. In fact, this isn't the time to launch any new intentions or do something new unless you want to redo it later. All right? This is my sense. This is my personal experience sharing through digital world. And I've just noticed a lot of shifting and shaking in the energies lately. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What are you feeling? And do you notice how you are affected by what goes on around you and how you affect what goes on around you? Because ultimately it's a collective collaboration. Nothing is ever being done to you. We're attracting where we're at. We magnetize with the energy, the frequencies. And when I look back at this past year in reflection, I can see where I allowed and maybe drew certain experiences to myself that I didn't really anticipate. Some that still baffle me and I'm still dealing with them. Some that I'm very proud of myself because I know I am very resilient, and I know that. And I've suffered a lot of loss this year from myself personally, physically, mentally, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. In some cases, I would suspect that some people would be completely broken by some of the stuff I've gone through. And I'm just going to be really raw right now and just share some of the things that I've been through this past year. I don't normally reveal my tender heart a lot, especially to people who are inconsequential and don't actually deserve to be a part of my life. I have always been very selective about people in my life, but I've also been very forgiving. I've been very, what's the word? I've allowed people into my life and given them the benefit of the doubt. And I tend to do that with anyone and everybody, unless they give me a reason not to. And we should be discerning. We should be more exclusive with our energy. What we allow in and what we emit, what we actually give out to the world. Because this is part of that collective collaboration. If you're not selective, then you can get hit with some really harsh, toxic energy, some stuff that doesn't uplift you. And there's a lot of psychic attacks that go on because of that. And I never used to be the type of person who believed in black magic or any of this craziness, but there are some sick people in the world. There are some people who, when you bring to their attention, whether it's in a kind way or not, it's irrelevant. When anybody feels under attack, what is the first thing that happens? Especially if you're unhealed and you have a lot of shadow, a lot of shit you're not facing, they become even more vindictive, because the more hurt stuff that you push down, the more you operate from that space, that place. And so it's easier to fight back and defend and offend the person who is courageous enough to own and stand in their power, because that makes a person who is not in their power feel threatened. It's not always a conscious thing. Most of the times it's not. And I know because I've been there. Yes, it is a reaction rather than a response. The reaction comes in with the fist. The response comes in with an open hand, willing to shake. The other one's ready to take everybody and everything out. And that's a trigger. That comes from a deep-seated wound. Because when you feel you're under attack, and this goes back to chronic stress, this goes back to the unhealed, unresolved wounds of our past. This is why shadow work is so important. If you don't know thyself so well, then you are being run by that unconscious stuff. The wounds are what reveal your strengths or your weaknesses. It's not your strengths or weaknesses that actually protect you. The wounds will call you out. So if someone comes at you, be really cognizant of how that feels in your body. Notice your breath. Because it's challenging. You want people to understand you, but the first question is, do you understand you? And does it really matter if people understand you or not? Or is that just a distraction from allowing yourself to be misunderstood? It's okay for people to not understand us. It really is okay. In fact, most of the opinions of others are none of our business, and we tend to play into that game, that tit for tat. Well, this person treated me this way, when in reality that comes from those wounds. And because we want to feel understood. Of course, that's a natural human desire to connect with others, is to also understand, is to stand under another. Most people don't want to stand under anybody, let alone uplift others when they are feeling down themselves. So we always have to check in. Where are we at in ourselves? The theme right now, and this is because I had this conversation earlier with some friends, breath. If I could bring it up any more, yeah, this is, Mish, I could address that as well. Dyslexia, you feel like you're not the same as others. And instead of seeing that that's actually a gift. But we don't know that at the time because we've been labeled, right? Tell somebody they are challenged, when in reality that challenge is the biggest gift. Because you see things differently than other people do. Which also allows you to see clues and connect dots. So dyslexia is actually a gift, and I know that for a fact. Breath. The one thing that's going to be more and more important over this year is coming into the present. That no matter what is going on in your life, come back to your breath. Come back to the moment. So I noticed yesterday, I started having a lot of yawning, and I'm like, wow, I'm not even tired. What's going on here? A lot of technology's gone up around us recently. It's been during the holiday ignorance and bliss that nobody's paying attention, so you're not going to notice, the elephant in the room, except for here in Florida. When you look out along the horizon, this is a beach area. And it reminds me of those old movies where everything's industrial and has all these metal. I call it like environmental pollution from a visual perspective, because we're not advanced technologically if you got to be putting tons of these things up. So another subject. But going back to the breath, it is related. And it will show, because your heart is your battery. Your lungs are the fuel of your system. So you need to be able to breathe fully. If you're not breathing fully, you're not living fully. You're 1 foot in, 1 foot out of this life, to be totally honest with you. The heart is that magnetic, draws your experiences to you. The stronger your breath, the stronger your heart, the more powerful your being. And the breath is always what brings you into the present. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I just didn't want to say it out loud. And, that's exactly what I'm discussing. And so today I met up with my girlfriends. Actually, this morning at the gym, we were discussing it before we even went to have some coffee to discuss other things. And I was thinking it as I was driving into the gym about how today especially, I woke up like, wow, I'm having this challenge, and I'm noticing it, periodically throughout today, that I'm very cognizant of my breath. Like, it's bringing me into my present because I'm noticing how it is taking me out. Like, it's to not get a full breath and expand your lungs to feel like you're, what's going on here? Very unusual for me. And I teach this. This is my jam: breath work, mantra, yoga, kriya, meditation, mindfulness, addiction. All of these things that I notice in myself, I'm like, wow, if I'm feeling this. And so sure enough, somebody mentioned it at the gym, one of my girlfriends. I said, I'm glad you said that. I said, because I noticed it today and yesterday. Yeah. I have one of those, and it's something I have to pursue getting off. And breath is the most important thing we can be focusing and strengthening right now during these times. Breath of fire. Powerful inhale through the nose and exhale out the nose, equalizing the inhale and the exhale. Pumping on the navel, not pushing with your hand, by the way. It should be in and out. The navel pulls in on the exhale. And this will give you a clarity. It's better than coffee, actually. It will clear your sinuses, of which I have a runny nose right now. It will clear your sinuses. It will give you mental clarity. You may feel a little lightheadedness. Be cognizant if you have high blood pressure and all these other contraindications, because exactly, lungs desire energy. And so you need to bring in fresh oxygen to oxygenate your blood, your brain, your cells, your organs. Everything depends on oxygen, and hydrogen-rich oxygen. So if the atmosphere is being messed with, so is the oxygen you're breathing, which is why breath exercises like breath of fire are important, because it's a cleansing breath as well. So it will clear out stagnation in your body, in your mind. All right, so I want to go back to this energy stuff, because we were having the conversation around it. I said, you know what? I see a benefit in this because we're sensitive to, and I pointed out the technology. I said, over these past several weeks, ever since the day before Thanksgiving, they've been going up like wildfire. A lot of places are doing smart cities. You might want to check into where you live if your city has opted into this without your knowledge. It's not about advancing technology. This is more about dampening your electromagnetic field, dampening your immune system. It's about putting you under stress. Ironically, the airwaves. Think about that. The air you breathe, frequency, vibration, the airwaves affect your entire being. Yeah, airwaves, frequency, frequent keys. Now, don't go into fear mode with this. This is awareness. There's a huge difference, because you can get all upset about, oh my God, all the stuff happening in the world. But the reality is, all that stuff is there to also put you in the fear department. It's also there to distract you, upset you, and get you into that chronic stress mode. If you're not already in it already, because most people have been living from chronic stress for a very long time. They've been in that mode, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And that's been infiltrated for a very long time. We're being zapped from environment to water, from our food, from everything. And unless you're aware of it, you may just assume it's something that you're unable to figure out in yourself. So awareness is key, and you've got frequency, frequent keys to also harness. And you have all the tools you have within yourself that are available to you. But it's about unlocking your codes. It's about getting in touch with thyself. This is why I say this so much. Know thyself so well that you don't freak out and think something's being done to you. Sure, there are agendas. Sure, there are people seeking to put their claws in you and control you and keep you under the thumbs. But to feed that energy, to even give anyone power over you by fearing it, plays into it. Yeah, PTSD from the past 4 years. I totally understand. And I've had this conversation on and on and on and on with many a person recently about the things that have been happening over these years have put people in that, what next? Like anticipation of the worst. But I'm here to tell you, you can also anticipate the best. It's that duality, just to play into the polarity, the division, the divisive labeling, the us versus them. You do the best you can do with you first. Because the only way they affect you is when you give them all your attention, all of your energy, all your focus. Whatever is going on in the world, most of us can't affect that from this space of our environment. Very few people can make a huge impact in the sense that, well, what are you going to do? You can be more cognizant of your environment, get to know your local farmers, get to know your local businesses, become active in your community, active in your city, your town, your councils. Attend meetings, find out what's going on, get on your neighborhood apps, become friends with people that live in your neighborhood. Because if you're not, see, I remember I grew up with people who knew each other because, well, you're my neighbor, and neighbors are supposed to know each other. But there's so many neighbors that don't know each other. And they lock themselves up in their homes, fearful that, oh, they have the wrong sign up in their yard. They don't believe or think the way I do. Or maybe they do something I don't do and I do something they don't do. And so, of course, you've already got this belief system you're defending, right? We need to actually come back to our humanity and humility. That we're in a space right now, and this is the energy that I've been picking up because of what I've been going through, that what's been fostered over these past several years has been this divisiveness to encourage people to see themselves as victims of their circumstances, to create labels, to enforce and reinforce any form of a mental instability to the point where it's not your fault. You can't do anything about it. So we'll fight for you. Giving your power away to anybody outside of yourself is also enslaving you to them. Whether it is to say that somebody did something to you or that somebody can help you and fix the situation for you. Like a big brother, like a big daddy, like Uncle Sam kind of situation, you know? It's Hegelian dialect, you know? Problem, solution, resolution. If you pay enough attention and you connect the dots and you see the patterns, you'll be able to see that we've been set up in a lot of ways to get into these positions of, struggle, strife, stress. Like, we need help. Who's going to fix and help me? Who's going to be my savior? When in reality, we're the ones who need to come together and help each other, help ourselves. Because when you start taking personal responsibility for choices you've made, the situation you're in, we're adults here. Nobody's doing anything to us. We make choices every day. We don't make mistakes. A mistake is something you can change by making another choice. Those mistakes, you get a next take when you make another choice. If you find yourself in a situation that's unhealthy, toxic, seek help. Seek your options. Sit down and write in a journal. What is it about the situation that makes me feel unsafe? What can I do to change it? Where can I turn? What are my resources? What's available to me? Who are my go-to people? Who can I trust? Writing down these lists of things, going over and reevaluating your life. Am I where I want to be right now? Where do I want to be? What do I feel? Where do I feel it? What does it evoke in me? What does it bring up from my past? These are just simple questions. Like when things start coming up in your life, you need to start like having a dialogue with yourself, writing it down on paper, because it's very cathartic when you start putting things down. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have a good circle of friends, then start getting out in different environments. You know, it takes effort. It takes a dedication to grow. Don't hide in your home. Don't close the door and just think you can protect yourself by not going out in public. Oh, I don't need to be around people, you know, because that's a form of fear. It also is quite often, we don't go into new circles because we have a fear of abandonment or rejection from people we don't even know. Most of our compromises that put us at risk are based on things like, I'm afraid of what they'll think of me. I'm fearful they won't like me. I'm afraid they'll reject me, that it won't be accepted, that I'm not lovable is really the bottom line on all that. When we're all lovable. Not everybody's going to love you. That's okay. I think you would accept it if it was somebody you didn't care about as much as somebody you do care about. So think about that. For every person that you care about and cares about you, there's equally as many people who don't like you and you don't like. It's self-inquiry time, exactly. This is the period where we go, okay, last year, what happened? What worked and what didn't work? What did I carry over as my lessons and my blessings? And what am I carrying over that I still got to work on? Because we all got something. None of us are perfect. I'm not. I like my mess. My mess has taught me a lot. And if I own my mess doesn't own me. And it doesn't run the show. I'm not going to react, freak out over things I have no control over in the moment. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have. This is my experience. Because that's what I know. And I encourage anyone out there that is struggling to sit down with all of that and check in with, okay, why am I struggling? I think the challenge, even for myself, that I find is sometimes it is hard to make steps forward. Even writing my story. When I think about writing my life story, I worry about the people I might talk about in that story. Not liking what I say about them. Being offended or upset at my experience of them. But I know in my heart I have to do it for myself. That this past year taught me some seriously hardcore, challenging, painful lessons where I wasn't valuing myself. And as a result, I watched how people weren't valuing me, that when I did call it out, they dropped out of my life. That the toxic situations I found myself still in, it was hard to admit that I had to leave and let go. And I've been going through this cleansing for a while, not just it's definitely been the past few years. Something happened today that made me reflect even more. That kind of caught me off guard, but it didn't. And here's why. I have mentioned in a couple of my videos and what I've noticed. Earlier this year, last year, 2022, I put myself out into the dating world. I decided it's time. I finally met somebody and it didn't go anywhere. That's okay. And then I had my surgery to remove my breast implants. And that really, really exposed my heart. As much as I was prepared for it, knowing that I was going to experience a lot of emotions and I was going to have the body image issues, and not as bad as I don't like my body without them. It was more like, getting adjusted to being back to my normal physical body and not, you know, big two sacks inside of me that were causing chronic issues. So I knew what was coming and I was prepared for it. It was a little scary because at the very last bit, as I was getting closer, it was like that, you know, and everybody goes through this. You're going to go under the knife, but you're not going to be awake for it. They put you out with the anesthesia, and I was like, okay, and then leaving and all that other stuff. But my dog was sick before that even happened. And I couldn't be fully present even with my dog, and I didn't know how to deal with everything that was happening all at once. And I've always been very protective of my animals and always done the best I could with food and, you know, I'm not liking to give medications that aren't necessary. Not because I don't believe in science and all this other bullshit, but the truth is because a lot of it's been debunked, but hey, you know, flea medications are pesticides. It's a true fact. And when you think about all these different things we put in our bodies, how much are we increasing our toxic load that is causing chronic illness, chronic pain, all these different things. So I had my surgery on the 29th of March. I had given my dog some medication for fleas at the beginning of March. He started getting sick immediately afterward. And I thought it was going to pass. And I believe I was in denial too at the same time because I had so much stuff going on. And I walked him all the time, and then he was getting more skittish. With fireworks, he'd just want to dart home. And you know, as a pet owner, a fur baby mama, you know, most of us, anybody out there who's had a pet, we are worried about our animals. And I ended up having to put him to sleep less than a month after my surgery. Because after I brought him to the vet, who it has turned out, according to another vet in the write-up, there was negligence. Because they could easily see at the lab work that they overlooked a bacteria that he did have that should have been treated. Now, the fraudulent part is that they make you pay up front. So they'll claim that you're paying for services rendered. But the truth is, you haven't even had the services rendered. You're signing over with trust that they will do the best that they can. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't until I put my dog to sleep that I actually started coming across lawsuits that had happened that had been revealed that this particular medication had been found to kill animals. So that means they have adverse reactions and that this is a known case. This is also a substance known to have adverse reactions, which means every vet has to have been briefed and aware that this exists if there was a class action lawsuit. And so I was really upset and I was very distraught, and I felt even worse because here I am in a situation where I had already brought the dog to the vet and they proceeded to dismiss me when I did mention the flea medication. Literally like an arm sweep across me like, well, his symptoms would have been gone. And I'm over here just like, but they didn't find anything wrong, but they wanted more money. And to me, it's a form of extortion because they play off your emotions. It took me a lot of strength and courage, and I probably shouldn't even have bothered, honestly, because I ended up bringing him to another vet that I used to bring my other dog to that I trusted. And I promised I wouldn't put Buddy through what I had put Angel through, which was to keep her alive despite all of her ailments. And she was, when I did finally put her to sleep, and she was over 17, almost 18 years old, it was to the point where she kind of was already checked out. And I saw that right before. And so I trusted them. I don't know if I had made a different choice if he'd still be alive. But the last thing you want to hear is a vet gaslighting you and telling you you're the negligent one because they don't want to take personal responsibility. Now, first off, you ever try to do that, try to bring this up to a vet, they're taught. You can look it up online. All the insurance companies will tell you they have training to not admit any guilt or take any responsibility or liability. And because they're part of the medical industry, they've got the backing. They've got all the lawyers. They got all the money. And that it takes a whole lot of, the burden of proof. You got to have everything documented. I actually went into the clinic very upset. Now, I wasn't yelling and screaming. I didn't make a scene. They took me into the other room. My major concern was, what is your protocol for treating an animal that has these known reactions from a pharmaceutical drug that you were dispensing? And I was met with the owner of this clinic, who didn't come in and not once, not a bedside manner, forget it. Not once did I get I'm sorry for your loss. Instead, I got verbally accosted and assaulted. I was called the crazy hippie. I pointed out that, and this is an interesting fact, I admit this. I said, listen, I have a presence on social media. I'm asking for you to do the right thing here. I will put you on blast. I admit that. You know why? Because these people are so arrogant. They have no remorse. Their bottom line is the dollar. I don't care. There wasn't once, I'm really sorry for your loss. Not once. And every time I asked him about this particular flea medication, I was told, we don't know what you're talking about. We've never had that happen. I said, wait a minute. There has been a class action lawsuit. Now, I never threatened lawsuit, but I think by saying that, they assumed that I was going to come after him then that way. I never once said I wanted to sue them. I really wanted them to do the right thing. And I explicitly wanted to walk out of there with the good knowing that they had some sort of a protocol, because they clearly did not. And they never once wanted to admit this. Because again, as a business, if there is a known side effect, in the case of veterinarians, they're not just the doctor, they're the pharmacist. They are dispensing it, meaning they are liable. And if anybody out there understands about pharmacy and doctors, the doctor's not the one responsible for dispensing a medication that you have problems with if you have an adverse reaction to. It goes back to the pharmacist. So they're not only acting as a doctor, but as a vet, as a pharmacist as well. So every time I brought this up, I said, I'm asking you, what do you do in the case of an animal that comes in with adverse reactions? They went from, we don't know what you're talking about, to, it's rare. Just changing your tune is showing your guilt. Not being straightforward and essentially admitting, without admitting, that they don't have a protocol. The real outcome, if anything, I wanted was a refund of my money for them being negligent and never finding out what was wrong with my dog. And also for them to have a protocol in place. Not to attack me, call me a crazy hippie. And she smugly looked at me and said, next time you want to go after a vet, you better make sure you follow their treatment to the letter. Because otherwise it makes you look like you're crazy. And I have no problem. Go ahead and blast me on social media, she said to me. You're just going to make yourself look crazy. And I have no problem backing up. I was like, wow, you're sick. This is sick. Can't go after the drug maker either. I don't have any proof. And that's how that works. I know my story. I know my experience. That's all I can share. That's what's fucked up in this country right now, and the world. Because the bully and the narcissist and the entitlement is what's being promoted right now, even social media. So this is where this gets interesting. First off, I have documentation. I have text messages that she sent to me because I asked what their names were, but she never even introduced herself when she walked into the office, into the room that I was in. The only person I knew I was dealing with the woman who was there, who was at the front desk. So she didn't even tell me her name. I didn't know she was even the vet clinic's owner. I did not know that it was her business. So of course she was doing what we call damage control, if you could call it that. I get in my car and I sent the text and asked for their names. And then she proceeds to add more salt to the wound. Like, I'm not already distressed because of my animal being dead as it is. You know, I'm already tender from that. And I actually made an effort in the attempt that they would do the right thing. Okay, so I made a mistake. Clearly, I didn't know what I was going to be walking into. I actually walked out of there with the fear, and I'm not that type of person, like, what is this person capable of? Like, she's that arrogant? And these people have my address? I'm like, you know, when someone's mentally unstable and treats and gaslights you that way, it's not something you know what to expect. I didn't expect that kind of treatment in there, that's for sure. I certainly didn't make a scene in their office, and I probably would have been better off had I done that, but then I'm not trying to make myself look crazy or have somebody have fuel to add to the fire. But she did send me a text and she said, I'm sorry. Not I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that you needed a service dog for, you know, your mental health, and you should go to your mental health therapist and get treatment right away. Like, she's somebody who could give me that kind of guidance. In fact, in the room, I was told, oh, service people with service dogs are the worst. I can't speak for other people. But my dog was my life, and he was my boo. And I'm upset that you neglected him and me, because what is the first thing they ask you when you go into the vet? Has anything changed in their diet? What have you given him? And I did tell them, and I was dismissed. So I'm sorry, you tell me to trust the science, but yet you don't want to trust the person who's paying you for what they tell you, and you want to dismiss it and gaslight because you just want to milk me or whatever you can and try to do as much testing and, you know, more money. Bottom line, no compassion whatsoever. So I wrote up a review on my social media, and then because I was concerned about this person, she literally, I put the post up there on my last account. This is my second account that's been disabled. I put it up there and just shared my personal experience of what transpired. And because I guess some of my friends went and responded, she came in with a fake account, and she was doing damage control on my post, which was my personal experience. So I had to block her. I had to block her fake account. I had to block all that. And then I took it down because a friend of mine said, you got to be careful. They could try to come after you for slander. I'm like, how is it slander when it was my personal experience that I was attacked? And she's attacking my mental health and my character and gaslighting me, calling me names. And she's obviously got an issue with hippies, which means she's discriminating, because to use that as any type of derogatory term, anytime somebody calls you a name, they're basically saying they have a discrimination against whatever that name is, or whatever it is she's claiming you to be. He, she, whatever. It's revealing your issues. So, I tell this story for a reason. So I went on my trip to Europe, and I have not posted any. 2 days before I came back to the States, my Facebook and Instagram were disabled. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And then recently, I decided I was going through Care Credit, which is who I paid with, to dispute the charges because my services weren't rendered. And first off, they sided with her, despite the fact that I have an actual professional veterinarian who wrote up a letter for me explaining everything looking at his records. It's not about siding with me. It's her medical opinion. She's a professional. I don't know. I'm not the one trying to debunk any science. I'm just sitting here going, hello, here's a letter from somebody who is science. So I looked over, I didn't even want to read the letter, to be straight up, because my lawyer had sent a letter to her back on the 25th of September. And I did not know the date that the letter was sent to her until I read the care credit. Because my lawyer actually told me that she was belligerent and calling me names in the letters she received, which is unprofessional. I don't know, other than the fact that it just tells me this must be a trend in her behavior, that she's gotten away with stuff before, and that it's okay in the business for her to basically gaslight clients because they're upset at the treatment and their inability to be professional or to render the services that are being paid for. And I did kind of look at all the reviews that were negative. I was like, oh, shoot. Some of them even said the same verbiage that I heard from her firsthand. I was like, so I read this letter recently. The care credit had sent me a copy of the letter she sent. And she was trying to discredit me, saying this is the epitome of pseudoscience, like saying that I was convinced of something about him getting, cancer or something. I'm like, honestly, I never accused her of, I never even assumed anything. I just said, here's what happened. Here's what I experienced and what transpired. And I requested them to do the right thing to reimburse me. So I have already been in contact with somebody who's helping me, gave me the contact for a legal support. And I realized, wow, wait a minute here. She explained to Care Credit in this letter that my lawyer had already told me that I couldn't get anywhere with this case because of the fact that basically she was gloating about how she was going to be protected. Let's just say that she wasn't going to be held accountable for anything. She essentially told the Care Credit in this letter that my lawyer had already told me that I wasn't going to get anywhere with this case against her. So she was basically fluffing herself up. But when she said that she received the letter from the 25th of September, I realized, oh, wait a minute, that was a week before my account got disabled. Isn't that ironic? How vindictive and sick, narcissistic, psychopathic, sociopathic? I mean, seriously. This is the world we're living in, where people can report you through social media and get away with it because the bully can be protected with anonymity. So you can report somebody because you don't like them. Doesn't make you right. But going against community standards is this melange of bull to see who this person is. They don't have to be accountable for accusing you of anything. They can create a story. And social media is just going to be like, okay, sure. Because I had no marks against that account that made any sense. And I appealed it. And it just came back saying that it was a final decision. I was like, this is really bizarre. This is really bizarre. So I have no idea why that account was disabled, other than it seems awful coincidental that since the lawyer sent the letter, I lost my account within that week. And I told you, I admitted to her that I was in social media. So she's ever. It's okay. You got to live with the guilt anyway. You got to live with the rage. The people call you out and you know damn well down in your heart, you can lie to me, you can lie to the world. But you can't lie to your heart and your soul. You got to live with that guilt, not me. But when you go that extra mile to be vindictive, see, this is karma. This shit comes back on people. I'm not going to be the person to do it. I'm just simply, I honestly would just like to see a protocol in place for anybody who administers drugs like that, of any nature. I don't think any of them should be there, but you attract where you're at. That's the bottom line. But just recently, I got to share this one, and this is why I'm talking tonight, because it's a reflection of this past year and the crazy shit that I've witnessed in my life and also around me and the world around us. We are seeing this. It's not your fault. Damn straight everybody's got a responsibility to themselves. It's not that everything's your fault. It's that we all have responsibility. We are responsible. We are not victims unless we choose to give our power away. And I admit that the only choice I shouldn't have made was going to this particular clinic. Today, I was sharing a little bit of the story earlier with my girlfriends, and you know, the sadness of how Care Credit was just about the money too, so they didn't side with me, and that's okay, because I still have this other option. Because it is fraud to have someone sign in advance and then to proceed to say, well, she signed, you know, the terms, the services she signed. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the services were rendered acceptably or that they delivered on the promise. I still am I'm without a dog right now, but yet she has no problem being vindictive. At least that's the assumption I'm going under, okay? It just seems too coincidental that today I found out I got an email that said Pinterest had suspended that account. Now, if there's any account that I own or have out in social media land, my Pinterest, it said that it went against community standards. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. That I know for a fact. That's the most benign account. That's just me pinning, you know, motivational comments and quotes and house stuff because I'm renovating my house. There's nothing on that account that would ever justify it being suspended for that reason. But if you do a search for my name, you'll see all of my social media. And the Pinterest account is associated with my main email address, which she has, as well as my personal home address. And it's just too coincidental that, once again, she's been contacted from somebody regarding me. And so this behavior has already presented itself with the attacking text messages. Now, I can't even prove it, but I have a pretty good suspicion. Because people who think they can get away with anything will do whatever they can because nobody's holding them accountable. An appeal to Pinterest. And I explained my situation. I said, you know, I'll be straight up. I have a dispute with the vet, and I personally feel that this person is going out on a vendetta, a spree. Yeah. And some of you know that I've been in social media for a while, so there are people that don't like me. You know what? What have I done to them? Isn't it interesting when you haven't actually done anything to somebody, how they can turn around and seek to destroy or to make your life miserable because they're not happy? I'm here to uplift and support people. I'm not here to make anybody unhappy or to, I don't want to put anyone on blast because I don't think that's, you know, this was my personal experience. This is what I went through. And the fact that I even revealed and expressed that vulnerability of myself to somebody who decided it was good to keep on cutting into me. Like, wow, how fucked up is this world? If you're so confident in yourself, why would you go running around damage control, worried that somebody, you know, oh, I have to destroy their livelihood because you're afraid of your livelihood being destroyed? Obviously, you have something to hide. Or you wouldn't keep coming after me when I've already lost and I'm already sad enough that I lost my pet, my buddy. That's some fucked up shit, seriously. Can you live with yourself every night and be happy? Oh, look at me. I was able to get someone's social media taken down. That's a sick mentality. Okay, so you feel you validated, vindicated, whatever you think. And you got your money too. And I'm over here without a dog. And you seek to destroy people who you've already destroyed. That's some sick psychology right there. And yet you want to call me mentally unstable? Funny how that works. People reveal themselves in their behavior, whether they're accountable for it or not. The truth of social media today was my Pinterest account was suspended. And it's just too coincidental because I only just found out last week or the week before that it's not a game. I don't consider this a game. What I consider this is just the fact that somebody should not be paid for a service that wasn't followed through properly. And my dog in the end got sick, still sick. And I had to make a hard choice. I wasn't negligent with my dog, which is really fucked up when you have a vet who's actually trying to gaslight you because they won't take responsibility for any mistakes. No, you wouldn't. You're taught not to. I'd rather have my dog. So I do have some other legal stuff going on in the background. So, and then here's the problem. When someone is so vindictive and has shown you that they're capable of who knows what, isn't it sad that you should ever fear having to do people in the world that because of telling a truth and an experience, they will seek to destroy? What they don't realize is they're really destroying themselves. Because again, what you inflict upon another, you actually inflict upon yourself. And energetically, that always catches up with people, whatever it is. I am not the person to go after a person or to threaten them in any way, shape, or form. I might go to that clinic again. Because what I experienced was, we'll take your money, but as soon as you're happy with your service, we change our behavior. They have no bedside manner. We have no remorse or compassion because God forbid you lost your dog. We're going to attack you on top of the wound you've got from losing your pet. That's not professionalism. So that's been tough because I just want that over and done with. But the fact that somebody would come after my social media, listen, you know, at this point in my life, I've lost a lot. And this year really taught me a lot of that loss. You might even be doing me a favor for all I know. But if I really were face to face, I'd be like, fuck off. I'm still on this planet. That ain't changing. And I got a big book to write. You'll make a great character. So, and I'm not being vindictive when I say that. My thing is this. If you had good behavior, you wouldn't have to worry about what people say about you or write or reviews. If you don't, then obviously you got to do damage control. That's chronic stress. And that's where I'm coming into this next year. So yesterday morning I had my neuromuscular appointment, and I have like the coolest neuromuscular therapist. And because I do body work and that's my jam, and I've always been involved in fitness, when you know your body so well, this is all part of knowing thyself so well, you start to notice made the biggest difference. But I still got a lot of work to do. He gets in there, he digs. And one of the problems has been my right shoulder. That's why I started going to the gym that I've been going to, specifically to work out the kinks, where I have what some therapists call chicken wings, because my shoulder blades poke out. Well, even with yoga, I've worked on bringing the shoulder blades down in the back. And that's how I teach, is I teach from the body awareness. My body awareness workshops, it's all about tapping into your body, all the tools within you, connecting all of the holy and reflects the mind. Amazing. It's like the body just goes into, wow, I feel good. That the mind doesn't freak out from it, because the mind is freaking out, reflecting the reflection of the body that's reflecting the mind. This is when I did find out about my Pinterest, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And physiologically, I'm like, whatever. It's not personal to me, but yet somebody's trying to make it personal. And because I'm like, you know, this is really sad. This is really sad. What am I supposed to do over here? How can I defend myself against an anonymous individual who seeks to destroy or to cause problems in my life? I'm not intentionally seeking to cause problems in someone else's life. This is my livelihood person. When a business is not performing a service, the business or the individual. So I was just like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to share this. I had to share it. I had to get it out of my system. And just because this has been my personal experience, and it's been really rough over this past year, because I didn't want to lose my dog, especially after having had surgery. And I'm like, I'm healing, and he's dying. It's like the last thing you need. I was hoping to be snuggled up with my pupper, not be like, he's outside, won't even come inside. So anyway, going back to the climate of the world right now, we have left versus right, food division, gender division. Come on, people. You don't see? This is the oldest game in the book. Divide and conquer. It's not us versus us. It's them trying to create the schism between us and us. Unity is where we build community, humanity. Everything has unity in it that we desire as a species, as an existence. You know, we are souls having a human existence. We didn't come here to fight in war, support a banker's war. Who suffers? It's not the people who are fighting, because truly the people fighting are just trying to maintain a turf war, just trying to keep us oppressed and suppressed. Because when we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, in chronic stress, we will submit. I don't know what that means, Derek. You're going to have to explain what this number 1 NaH thing, I have no idea what it means. And it got me confused. So when we are in chronic stress of any nature, which means you can't even live your life effectively. You're trying to you're struggling to survive. When you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you're not able to respond effectively. When you are emotional, you're most irrational. That is when you give up your freedoms. That is when you beg for someone to take care of you because you can't do it for you. And because this chronic stress is a weak immune system, it's a weak nervous system, it's a weak electromagnetic field, it's a weak everything in your system. This is why breath is so important. To strengthen the breath is also to strengthen everything within you. And what is really important is to have a strong body anyway. We're not here to be lazy sitting on couches watching Netflix. We're not here to be working dead-end jobs that just basically work us to the core and suck the life force out of us. And I think a lot of people woke up to that over these past couple of years. Like, wow, I'm going through this hamster wheel. It's like Groundhog's Day. I'm doing. Or do you feel unworthy and you just keep giving and then feeling depleted, which is that chronic stress? It's receptivity. It's receiving in addition to your giving. That's all survival. Those are coping mechanisms. And if you're somebody who's doing it, and sometimes it takes the subtlest, humblest moment to recognize your own manipulation in situations. Relationships, we do it all the time. But can you be honest with yourself? How many times in with what they want around what's our objective? Why are we coming together? Relationships are handled the worst because I'm talking about intimate relationships. The generation I came from, now I do want to say I'm a lot different than I was when I was younger, but when I was younger, I admit it was really easy to get snapped up into a relationship that started out as physical. Kissing and hugging and you schmoozing and comfy. Now I'm not saying sexual right away, but at that point, you know, when I was younger, it seemed like I got to know people better before even the intimacy. And then I noticed in my late teens and early 20s, it was more like, oh, we have chemistry, let's hook up. And it was like, then afterward, what did we have? Not much. Not in all cases, but you got to really be honest with yourself. How many relationships did you enter into without any form of communication, having an expectation of the other person, and they had an expectation of you, but you never communicated it? And then both of you got upset that the other person didn't meet those expectations. That's manipulation. This is the subtlest, most immature forms of relationship, is assuming, because we all know what assuming does. Makes an ass out of you and me. Right? But where we're at in the world today is we have to acknowledge, we have to have these hard conversations. Am I healthy? Am I contributing? Or am I always looking to take because I'm afraid there won't be enough for myself? And yes, this is going to be a year of evaluation and becoming very much more cognizant of yourself and how you are meant to show up in the world versus how you've been showing up in the world, because our energy affects each other. So it's not just that we're affected by energy, but we are affecting the energy, the collective, the world that we are in. This is all a reflection of the internal stuff that we are avoiding or confronting, because what you're confronting in the outside world is something you're also having to confront in yourself. This past year brought to light for me had a shield across my heart. And that maybe my vulnerabilities and my rawness wasn't as obvious to many, that I wasn't feeling as deeply as I even thought I was. That maybe my heart wasn't fully in anything because it was so shielded from breast implants. That energetically I broke down my magnetic field, my lungs. I used to have slight breathing issues. Yeah. So this is the other thing. Going back to the chronic stress, I want every single one of you, wherever you are in your life, to sit down with a piece of paper and pen. Just consider this. You don't have to do it. It's a high recommendation. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. It takes a lot of humbleness to recognize our insecurities. This isn't for anybody else but you. I feel my own insecurities because I'm okay and I know them. I don't want to be alone all my life. I want to collaborate and I want to be a force for amazing world good. I want to uplift. I want to see everyone happy. I think everybody deserves to be happy. Everything. Even though it's withheld from so much of the world and us. You know, even when people talk about money, money's expendable. It's just a tool. It's just energy. It's an exchange. And it could change the form of that exchange too. But when you look at yourself and reflect upon this past year, notice your vulnerabilities. Give yourself compassion and tenderness for them. Because sometimes those vulnerabilities are what hold us back from doing the things we want to do the most. So I had to come to terms with the fact that all these years I used to say I just got the implants because I wanted for me. But that shows in my own vulnerability that I didn't feel complete. I wasn't happy with my body as it was. People who have Botox, people who do all sorts of, changes to their body. You're made uniquely as you are. Why do we feel the need to do such extreme things? And then we're not happy even after doing that. Those breast implants didn't complete me. They gave me a different form of confidence. They made me feel good that I fit into certain clothes. But honestly, I feel so much better now that I had them taken out because my body was under chronic stress, fighting foreign objects. When you put something inside of your body's going to constantly be fighting it. So how is your body going to effectively support your immune system, your nervous system, your oxygenating your blood blood pumping, all of that. So when I talked to and it was funny because I had this conversation with a girlfriend the other day too, about how I recognized that my body was under such stress and duress. My body was exhibiting symptoms from the start that I was ignorant to. I was ignoring it. That's what ignorance means. It was there, but I wasn't looking at it. I assumed it had to be something else because it couldn't possibly be this. They're supposed to be safe. So we've been told. Now they got black boxes for them, so they warn you that they can cause all these issues. Our environment influences us in all of this. From the moment we're born of original sin. So now we're constantly proving ourselves, whether it's through religion or society. So I actually recognize that you can be drinking poison every day of your life and not realize it's a slow death sped up. We're all at some point being bombarded with something that is attacking our system, and whether it's emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, everything, right? So it's cumulative. You know, like I've had the conversation, there's arsenic in balsamic vinegar, for example. There's all sorts of these heavy metals in our foods and different things like that, but never ever does anybody consider how it's a slow accumulation in your body and your system that when you say, oh, I've eaten this all my life, I don't have any problems. Until your body goes into crisis. That your body has what is called a crisis. It could be anything from rashes to bloating to appendicitis. It could be anything. Your body's going to do what it does in response to it. But your body's always seeking to clear toxins that don't belong there. Something is introduced to your body. You think it's normal, but your body's actually saying, hey, this doesn't belong here. So it just the implants, just imagine. And I know there's other people out there with different types of implants and different types of things in their bodies, chronic stress. And as a result of having implants, I couldn't fully heal other areas of my body. I was constantly tired. I'd have brain fog, breathing issues. You know, for years, everybody says, oh, if you didn't have allergies, you'll get them here. Well, I never got allergies when I lived in Korea. I never had allergies growing up in Maine. I never had allergies in Maryland. But when I got my implants, I was stationed, I was moving from Maryland to Belgium, and all of a sudden in Belgium, I had allergies. Coincidence? I don't think so. I also ended up being on something called INH because they were convinced that because I had a TB test that was actually a possible positive, it wasn't even really a positive. And they even took x-rays of my lungs, which were completely clear. There was no reason for me to take INH, which is a form of plants recently. So I look at my life as experiences with lessons, and I take that and I integrate it, and that becomes my wisdom. That's what we are all meant to do. You have an experience, not to judge the experience, but to contrast and compare it. Look at this and look at that. Oh, can you connect the dots? Because it correlates. If you can learn to connect dots, then you can start to recognize patterns. And when you recognize patterns, you can actually course correct your life. This is all going back to master your breath, master your mind, master your life. And then you can master your domain. But you actually have to recognize and be willing to see the patterns. Not do this whole cognitive dissonance. Well, if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist. We all have to take personal responsibility and accountability for our choices in our bodies. Because if you don't start with taking responsibility for your body, you're going to be at the mercy of somebody else. See that play on words? It's not your body if you placed it in the hands of somebody else. This is going to be an interesting year where a lot of people who were numbed out, you're going to see a lot of rage. You're going to see a lot of anger because they're going to wake up to the fact that maybe something they've always believed was not the truth. They're going to feel deceived. They're going to feel lied to. And for a lot of us, we've already been knowing this stuff. And doesn't it suck when you're woken up to the fact that, wow, that sucks. That's not even the truth. All these years, I believed it and it was a lie, or there was something not right about it. And see, again, if you tap into your body's wisdom, you'll be able to tell when something's a lie. Nobody can pull the wool over your eyes when you yourself are owning all of your stuff. And sometimes it's owning the lies you tell yourself that you recognize and see through another lie. If you spot it, you got it. What you see in another is a reflection of yourself, whether you like it or not. Own it so it doesn't own you. This is going to be a powerful year for those people who've been doing the work on themselves, because there are going to be a lot of people going to turn to you and need your support. Then there are going to be a lot of people that drop out of your life too, because they don't want to admit defeat. They don't want to admit that they might have been wrong. So we're going through major life cycles. We have been. But this is a pivotal year, because the question is, are you going to continue to allow this divide and conquer tactic to continue to create the wedges and the schisms between all of us? Because all that does is feed the fuel for more control. Nobody wants to be ruled over. Admit it. Now, I actually did have this conversation earlier about how I can understand the appeal of living in ignorance. Because when you have something at stake and you're afraid to give up certain comforts, you'll give up and compromise yourself as a result of what you value more. And it may not be your freedom. Some people don't value their freedom as much as they want their little box. They want to just stay in their comfortable little ignorance box. And that's okay. Let them. Leave them alone. Allow people to choose for themselves, but don't try to inflict and force yourself upon them. Let's see. I'm really truly hoping that we see more listen to me, more accountability in the world. You know, we know a lot of stuff is not right now. When you look around the world and you see what you consider an injustice, do you know that this is what it takes to wake people up to the fact that it's happening? Is it has to get so extreme and so absurd to literally poke people and provoke them out of their willful ignorance, their cognitive dissonance. You have to get angry sometimes in order to affect change. Because if you don't, what is it going to take? Some people it's easier. Other people, you got to push it. You got to hit them where it hurts. And that's unfortunate, because those hard lessons, when you get hit in the soft spots, it's like, oh, those are worse than when you get to choose and open your eyes to what is truly in front of you. As opposed to the, no, that's not happening. We don't talk about that. Or, you know, like the discomfort. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This world has a lot of shakeups and a lot of letdowns. But guess what? It equally has as many lift ups as it does letdowns. And it has as many moments of ease. It's up to us to bring the grace. This is the year of confidence and grace, like standing in your power. People don't have to understand you or believe you or get you. You do. And people getting you. All that's important is you get you. And that you have your own back. When you start to cultivate that in yourself, power, you have all the power you need right there in you. And not everybody's going to like it. And that's the part where I said, you got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So I have the wisdom. I have some cards. I brought some. Just, I've been in my own little funk. It was very disheartening to learn that I feel like I don't want to fight. I'm not here to fight. I don't see the need in it. The fact that people fight is usually because they have a vested stake in something, and sometimes it's not really necessary. Why can't we come together and be more supportive of one another instead of being so nasty, vindictive? Well, because it's been conditioned into us that, you know, you've got to pick a side and you got to go along to get along, and none of that's natural or normal. It just shows how many hurt people there are, because hurt people hurt people. Healed people seek to help others be uplifted and healed. It's about how much you care in a way that actually is supportive of everyone. So, I don't know. We're all figuring it out as we go. So, this is my little way that when my breath is doing that thing where it's not catching fully, I bring myself to the present. So like I said to my girlfriend earlier when we were talking about the breathing issues that we were noticing, I said, you know, it could be the technology, but here's the bottom line. The benefit in it is it's bringing us into the moment and making us aware of what's happening. Because we're so in tune with ourselves, we recognize that our breath is not its normal full breath. And in that, it brings us into the present. So no matter what you are feeling, if it doesn't feel right, that's making you aware that you're being present. So look at that as a bonus. That no matter what is going on in your life, when you notice the imbalance, that's the presence that you're bringing to yourself. Here right now. I'm here now in this. Dang. See how that little thing works in your favor? That's how I picked it up. I said, yeah, there's the bonus I'm getting, is I'm recognizing my breath is not as strong as it should be. And so you breathe in more fully and you become more present. So it brought you into the presence of your essence, the essence of your presence, because when your breath is maybe shortened or restricted, that's that moment when you go, oh, that's a moment to be present even more than I realize I am now noticing this. I love it. Cosmic tickles and giggles, right? All right, so what we have are notes from the universe on love and connection. Whew, let's see, what's the question? I don't think we need a question. I just pull cards and see what it does. Because we really do have more stuff working out for us than we don't. And even though I have these weird little niggles of shit I'm dealing with, you know, I want to have my stuff done here. I want my house to be renovated so I can move into it. And I want to be able to hold yoga at my home and, you know, be supportive from this space and be selective about the people I invite in, because I don't want just anybody here. I want people who are genuinely here because they want to be, not because it's another extra, oh, you've got yoga trials, I just want to come over and do yoga or whatever. No, because I want it to be more than that. I have a bigger vision than that. So, okay. It's not as if you need anyone. How perfect is that? It goes in with everything I was saying. It's not as if you need anyone. And we have a full moon coming up, if you didn't notice, in Cancer, which is all about those, the home. Anything that has to do with your abode, your home. And that's also the home within you, yourself. For as long as you wish to keep them in your life, whoever they may be, understanding them as opposed to changing them will wildly improve the chances that they'll wish to keep you in their life. On the other hand, you're pretty much stuck with me. Oh, wow. How I love you, the universe. Others could be anybody in your life. Anybody you're not accepting as they are. So I'll read it again. For as long as you wish to keep them in your life, whoever they may be, understanding them as opposed to changing them will wildly improve the chances that they'll wish to keep you in their life. On the other hand, you're pretty much stuck with me, and that's the universe. Oh, wow, how I love you. So another way to look at that, sometimes we look at the people in our lives and we just want them to be something they're not. We're not loving them. That's conditional. The idea that they need to be something other than what they are means we're not loving them at all. That's humbling. That's a form of manipulation, right? I'll only love you if you meet these conditions. I'll only allow you in my life if you do this for me. That's transactional, and that in itself, a lot of people out there don't realize how much they manipulate, conscious or unconscious, and in their minds more than they do verbally, because not everybody actually communicates what it is they have for an expectation of another person. So that's unhealthy, and I've been known to do it, or I wouldn't notice it. And I always like to look at the card at the very bottom of the deck. Oh, this is perfect. And it's pink. And there was you, your best friends, and wide-eyed curiosity among you about who would be the first to leap, the first to forget, the first to kiss, the first to tell, the first to fall, and the first to remember that it all began with a desire to love in spite of it all. Is that you, Murgatroyd? I don't know what that Murgatroyd is, but the universe. P.S. I remember the glint in your eyes, all three of them. Cute. I like it. Love in spite of it all. Go back to your childlike nature. That's one of the things I would recommend for this year, is how important it is to return to the childlike curiosity in you and to find the play again. It's all about play. Yeah. Everything must be discussed. And I'm 100% on board with you. Although I will say, if you're in an intimate relationship with a partner, just recognize masculine and feminine energies. That not everything needs to be said to our partner, as much as you need to also have a circle of girlfriends. I believe in that. You know, what they could call the red tents, or when women would be in the kitchen and they use that time to bond and to share what their experiences in life were and to support one another. And men need their men to bond with as well. I mean, you need those reinforcements. Honesty, yes, but not to the point where which sometimes in relationship becomes manipulation. You know, I'm just being honest with you. It's huge. Yeah. So this one is the Oracle from Pam Grout's ebooks. All right, the Oracle of E, which when she first came out, was it E² and there's an E³? Really good books. I remember those came out after the Law of Attraction stuff, which was lacking in its information. Yeah, Spider-Man. All right, let's see. My nose is congested a little. And I believe something is in the air for sure. There was a heaviness that settled in yesterday. I know there's a lot of weird stuff, wacky stuff going on in the world. Yeah. Yeah, relationships are key right now. And it's really important. The most important relationship you have is with yourself. Because you got to live with you in the end. All right, we're pulling. 1. I like doing 3 on these. 2. And then the bottom one. Because we always get the information we need, right? GPS. Silver lining. Yep. Let's look those up. So the GPS is number 15 and the silver lining is 37. This is a fun card deck. I've used this regularly. I haven't been pulling cards like I used to. I used to sometimes pull, a card a day for myself, and sometimes I would do it on my social media. So GPS says, OMG, your intuition is being a real show-off these days. It's so ready to help navigate your life, and quite frankly, it's getting a tad bit impatient. If you can't understand why, when it knows the fun, easy route, you insist on doing everything without its help. There's no need to be lost ever, especially now that you're about to stumble onto a gold mine. Yeah. So the GPS is basically saying, trust your intuition and stop doing this. Nah. That's when your head is overriding the mind. Your intuition is the into me I see. It is the heart. It will lead the way. It's the head that gets in the way. It will never lead you astray. It's the head that gets in the way. That's my little quote. So just remember, feel into whatever it is and trust. Don't allow the past to dictate the future, because that's where we all get hijacked. If you remember my past videos, I've been talking about this hijacking thing. Your power is in the present. And when your presence is taken into the past or the future, you're getting hijacked and you're being fragmented, and all your power gets scattered around from here to there, and it's nowhere where it needs to be, which is right here now in this. Silver lining. It only looks like disruption. In reality, everything is fine. Everything, in fact, is beyond fine. Underneath appearances is a silver, gold, and platinum lining. Enjoy. Oh, I love that. Silver spider webs. I had a dream not long ago about a white black widow. A white widow. It was pretty wild. Ooh, number 29. 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐿. So that's the third card. Let's see what that one says. Because in the past, we didn't listen to our intuition. But the wiser we get, the older we get, we realize it was spot on. We just didn't listen. And the silver lining is, it's always there. 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐿. Hope you can hear Bob Marley singing in the distance, because despite what appears to be a physical blip right now, every little thing's gonna be all right. This is a time of sweet, sweet healing, a time of renewal. Take a step back, put your feet up, and soak in the restorative power of the universe. Trust. Trust. Trust in yourself. Because everything is gonna be all right. Yep. So it's a time of renewal. It's the REs, everything with the RE in front of it. You got Mercury retrograde, you got Mars retrograde, we got our heads spinning. Trust is probably the hardest thing for the human to do, because we base everything on what has happened and anticipation that that's going to happen again. And I was listening to Teal Swan the other day, and I love that she reminded this, because it's so true. It's not that you're afraid of the unknown. It's afraid of the projection of the known that you think is unknown. It's the idea that everything from the past, you're anticipating to be in the future. So you're just creating a story that doesn't exist. The unknown is unknown. You're not afraid of that. You're afraid of what you've already known to reoccur. That's what you're afraid of. All right. Gifts of grace. So this is actually on women. You're a Cancer sun for the Cancer moon. Ooh, this would be interesting for you. So I'm not feeling this book. Okay. We're going back to the gifts of grace. Ooh. Okay. Well, came up to faith and trust. The page of faith and trust. Yeah, I can. Aw, yeah, that'd be awesome. This is the chapter on faith and trust in the gifts of grace. This is Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and they are teachers from India. I got these books when I was in India back in 2013. So, yeah. The fundamental faith in yoga is the title of this paragraph, this section. It's a short read. So, the fundamental faith in yoga is this, inherent in the soul, that the divine exists and the divine is the one thing to be followed after. Nothing else in life is worth having in comparison with that. So long as a man has that faith, he is marked for this spiritual life. And I will say that even if his nature is full of obstacles and crammed with denials and difficulties, and even if he has many years of struggle, He is marked out for success in the spiritual life. It is this faith that you need to develop, a faith which is in accordance with reason and common sense, that if the divine exists and has called you to the path, as is evident, then there must be a divine guidance behind and through, and in spite of it all, the difficulties you will arrive. So through and through, whether you have difficulties or not, the divine guidance is still behind you. Spirit's got your back, exactly. With that said, it says, not to listen to the hostile voices that suggest failure or to the whispers of impatient, vital haste that echo them. Not to believe that because great difficulties are there can be no success, or that because the divine has not yet shown himself, he will never show himself, but to take the position that everyone takes when he fixes his mind on a great and a difficult goal. I will go on till I succeed, all difficulties notwithstanding. To which the believer in the divine adds, the divine exists. My following after the divine cannot fail. I will go on through everything till I find him. Thank you, Carl. Yeah, that in itself, despite what appears on the surface, it even supports the cards, there's a silver lining, that the divine guidance is always behind you. It's always got your back, and you will always succeed in the end. And even in the Course in Miracles, it says it's not over till the happy part, and we haven't gotten there yet, right? There's always a happy part. So the fear doesn't matter how we appear and arrive there, is that we won't get there. That fear is that we're not lovable. The fear is that the divine has forsaken us or forgotten us. And the truth is, it's always with us. It's just our line of sight is a little off. And as they say, to make thine eyes one, which is close your eyes and go in to the third eye, your intuitive sense. Whew, that's a good one. The fundamental faith in yoga is this, inherent in the soul, that the divine exists and the divine is the one thing to be followed after. Nothing else in life is worth having in comparison with that. So long as a man has that faith, he is marked for the spiritual life. And I will say that, even if his nature is full of obstacles and crammed with denials and difficulties, and even if he has many years of struggle, he is marked out for success in the spiritual life. It is this faith that you need to develop, a faith which is in accordance with reason and common sense, that if the divine exists and has called you to the path, as is evident, then there must be a divine guidance behind and through, and in spite of all difficulties, you will arrive. Yes. Not to listen to the hostile voices that suggest failure or to the voices of impatient, vital haste that echo them. Not to believe that because great difficulties are there can be no success, or that because the divine has not yet shown himself, he will never show himself. But to take the position that everyone takes when he fixes his mind on a great and difficult goal. I will go on till I succeed, all difficulties notwithstanding. To which the believer in the divine adds, the divine exists, my following after the divine cannot fail. I will go on through everything till I find him. How divine is that? Trust and know you are taken care of. And so we all have life experiences, and no matter what we experience, we learn from those experiences. We have to have contrast to acknowledge our imbalances. Where have we lost our sight? Where have we placed too much trust in systems or people or places or things? When we, in ourself, maybe, okay, I should have trusted my inner voice. I should have paid attention. Even with my dog, I think back to, if I could do it over, I would have taken him to the vet sooner, like immediately. But because in the past it had occurred, I based it on the past, thinking, well, he usually gets better. So I assumed. And we all make mistakes. And I'm willing to own my mistakes because I'm human and I own my humanness. And at the same time, I know that I did what I needed to do that was the best thing for me and my dog too. And it sucks and it stings and I miss him. And during these holidays, every time I'd hear fireworks, I'm like, oh, buddy, because he would be so afraid of the fireworks. And I think of all the animals that these crazy noises make, that they think the world is coming to an end. That I think it is the most inhumane thing we can be doing is creating noises that sound like war around us. For the visual effects, we're so beyond that. And with pain comes pleasure, and with pleasure comes pain. So I also understand I've had such deep pain this past year. I approached and also had to confront somebody that I still had a desire to be with, an old unresolved relationship that I reached out to. I made myself exceptionally vulnerable and revealed all of that. I bared my heart and soul. And unfortunately, I got no response. And that sucks. But sometimes no response is what we're needing for us to make the moves forward, to change our lives the way we need to. Again, we have no control over someone else's karma and what they choose to live with in themselves. But we do have control over what we choose to hold on to, and to also, I'd rather have the truth, no matter how much it stings, because it'll be over momentarily. It takes time to heal a wound, don't get me wrong. But I would rather know than not know, because not knowing is like living a lie, right? And so I had to go through this, again, cathartic experience that I have been through with this individual before. It's not about cutting cords. I don't believe in that. And I did. And I had my process. And I'm over those humps. This is just a reflection of last year. That, to me, cord cutting is a form of violence. And that's my personal experience. And that's what I believe. When I became a Reiki master, and I was working with another Reiki master, we were talking about this. That cutting cords leaves behind something. Because if you cut something, that means you're leaving behind an attachment. And you're also severing, which, if anything, it's a releasing. Allowing it to go back to where it begins and where it needs to reside. That sometimes the connections dissolve too. It's not about cutting. It's about releasing, allowing, and even dissolving those connections. Yeah, exactly. That's how except for like a stump that could even create an abscess, like a wound. And so if something is still attached to you, that means you're still carrying that person with you in a way that's not serving you either. So to me, if anything, you have to allow them to let them go. And you also have to give yourself permission to be let go of. Because I had to have that process with this individual, because I know we were both energetically holding on to each other. And I know that person's still thinking about me because they keep popping up in my dreams. But I also think that I had this realization recently that I think that dreams could even be that other life where maybe you are with certain people that in this life they're not with you. And that's why we struggle with letting go of certain people, because somehow psychically we know in another life we're with that person. And we feel like, wait a minute, wasn't our contract? Oh shit. But I do feel like in this sense, it was like, wow, they didn't fulfill a contract that I believe we had. And that's okay. Maybe I didn't do something right, and I didn't fulfill my part of it as well. And it's okay. We need to be here now in this. And just recognize that it is what it is. And you should be who you're meant to be. And a lot of times we can have distractions with those kinds of relationship stories. We hurt ourselves when we do that. When we're meant to take that I still have love for that person. I'm really fucking disappointed. I'm not going to deny that. That's just my humanness. My human's like, you motherfucker, you suck. Yeah. I had conversations. I had those in my room by myself, blah, because we need to express. If we don't, what we suppress will express itself in unconscious ways. When you're mindful and you do it in a conscious way, I don't care if somebody makes you tries to say you look crazy. That's not their business. My ex was such a narcissist. I got upset one time and I went out to the compost pile and I had a pitchfork and I was just giving it back to the earth. I'm like, motherfucker. I was like giving it to the earth. And I came back in because he knew I was angry. I was pissed off because of the way he was behaving and treating me. So I went out and I gave it to the earth because I know she's going to transmute that. So that person turned around and when I walked back in the house, you look like a crazy person. I looked at him and I said, no, a crazy person would have taken it out on your ass. I don't do that shit. I don't play that game. Because that's what they want. So that you can be the crazy person in their story. That's what narcissists do. It's all about painting you as the bad guy. And they actually don't realize and don't like it. But they're playing the victim. If you tell them, and I did this to him one time. I was like, dude, you sound like a victim. I'm not a victim. He went in such defense. I was like, But this is when you can see through the BS, your belief systems, and all the crap. But you got to know thyself so well that you recognize it in other, the good and the bad. Because if you own your bad stuff, you're going to see it in others, and that's when you're going to go, I'm not going to let you get away with that with me. Yeah. It takes lessons upon lessons sometimes. Maybe you need to repeat a lesson, but don't beat yourself up over it. Because I've repeated a lot of lessons over the years, and I'm like, really? We're here again? I also believe that the universe will throw another one at you and go, hey, did you learn the lesson? I've had that happen too. I'm like, good one. I'm not doing that again. All right. With that, I think this has been a long video. So I appreciate you. But you know why? Sometimes we just got to let it out. And I don't want to continue with it. I'm leaving it in the hands of somebody I know who can take care of it for me. And whatever happens down the pipeline as far as social media and such, it really sucks having to start over again. But you know what? When you're meant for greatness, nothing can hold you from it. What is meant for you is meant just for you. Nobody can take it from you. Remember that. Because that's how life is. Life is here to surprise and delight you. Can you still show up with the grace and allow? Just be. Don't allow yourself to, don't give yourself away. You are a gift. It's your presence. It's your essence that you are here to gift the world. Not to compromise it. Not to, out of fear. We're here to be in faith, to be in trust, to know thyself and everything else. Love. Have a blessed evening.